welcome back to the channel. Out here on Guntersville, enjoying the beautiful day, catching a couple bass. Wanted to make a really quick wrap-up video for you guys on Florida, kind of break down how practice went, how the event went, kind of my thoughts, what I would do better, what I think went well. I'm going to try and do these for all of them. I will have the full-length video coming out at a later time. Editing right now for me is pretty hard to do, so I just want to be able to get you guys the information, the pertinent information for what's going on Lake Okeechobee right now down in Central Florida. Lake Okeechobee is a beast. It is a very large body of water, but it is fishing smaller than ever from what I've heard. I was never there when there was a lot of grass. Last year was my first time there for that Major League Fishing Invitational, but it is fishing small, small, small. Big crowds of boats. There's about 5 areas that those fish are getting into right now because they're going up to spawn. They got fish moving out. So there's 5 primary areas, and I found fish in a lot of them, but I just kind of decided to put all my eggs into basically 2 baskets. One spot that I figured I'd be able to catch them pretty quick. There was a lot of life. And the second spot was where I knew some big fish were going to be pulling up to. Practice was pretty good. I mean, we had a cold front hit the middle of practice, so the weekend before the tournament, we got 4.5 days of practice for the Bassmaster Opens. The weekend before the tournament, it was still not on a warming trend, but it was warm. We had warm nights, 80-degree days, the sun was out, a lot of fish were moving up shallow. And I got a lot of bites. I mean, I think the first day of practice, I had 15 to 20 bites. The second day of practice was pretty close to about the same. And the third day of practice was a little bit slower. The front hit that night, the night before the third day of practice. But I did still end up catching my biggest fish that I caught during practice, which was about a 6-pounder. But after that day in practice, it got pretty tough for me. I think what day was that? Tuesday before the tournament, I had maybe 3 bites all day. And then Wednesday before the tournament, it was pretty much the same. I think I had 2 to 3 bites that entire day. So I still had a lot of confidence because obviously with it being practice, I wasn't trying to get into the areas where I had a lot of bites. I mean, I went in there just to kind of look around, see what was changing because we had really cold nights. We had nights down in the 40s, which in Florida is a drastic change from 70-degree nights to 40. I mean, a 30-degree change at nighttime can really do a lot to those fish. Florida bass in the state of Florida are by far the most temperamental creatures I have ever pursued when it comes to weather. The slightest change can change their mood drastically. And, I mean, you could still be around them, and they're just not biting. And I feel like that's what happened a lot in practice. It was just really hard to get bites. But that was fine. It was practice. First day of the tournament, I roll out. I go to an area that I had a lot of bites in practice. I knew that there was fish in the area, and I knew there would be fish coming to me. Never had a bite. Never had a bite. And this was in an area around a bunch of other boats. And I go into where all the other boats were, and I'm just kind of moseying my way through there on the trolling motor, and I cannot get a bite. I'm watching people around me catch them, so I know there's still fish there. But I fished in the crowd of people, which at one point, I mean, day 2, my co-angler counted, and this was later in the afternoon, we counted 58 boats. But this is early on in day 1, and there was way more than that. Way, way more than that. But I just couldn't get a bite. Everybody else around me was catching them. I couldn't get a bite. So I decided to leave, ran around, and I picked up 1 fish. I only caught 1 bass. You'll see it in the full-length video when I drop it. I was spinning myself out pretty early in the day. I thought for sure that I was going to have a limit by around 11 o'clock, noon, or at least start to get bites around that time because it was another cool night. And it just didn't happen. I just couldn't figure out what to do to get a bite. And I came in with 1 fish for, I think it was 3.5, my 1 fish. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, you got to make a drastic change. You need to make a big change because there's no way I'm shooting myself in the foot that bad. The first event of the year in the Bassmaster EQs, trying to get to the Elite Series, I'm not doing that on the first day. No way. So I pulled my head out of my butt and I picked up a spinning rod. I picked up a spinning rod, and I put 12-pound Seagar Invis-X with a pretty long leader, and a Trocar drop shot hook, the finesse drop shot hook, and then a 3/16 ounce Texoma tackle weight with a magic worm. And that changed the day. So day 2, I got out, I left the crowded area. I'm like, I will probably go there, but I want to get 5 first because a limit is key. And I know the whole thing about picking up your trolling motor in Florida is bad. You don't do it. You put your trolling motor down, you fish an area. You just stay there. But I was dead set. I'm like, I need to get a limit first. If I get a limit first, I can go mill around the crowd and make something happen. So I went into my area and actually caught them fairly quick on a Cinco. My co-angler caught one really quick on a chatterbait. And then I picked up that drop shot and just started dropping it around reed heads. I was dropping around brush. I was dropping around reed clumps that were out in the middle. And I was able to catch a limit. It was a small limit. It was like 8 pounds. And then I was just about done. I was like, okay, I can't upgrade anymore in here. I got to go to the spot where I know the big fish are coming. And I was just like, well, I'm going to pick up a swim jig. I'm just going to work my way around here as I'm working my way out, and I'll take off and run. And as I did that, I caught a 3/8 on a swim jig. And then I caught another decent one on a swim jig. So I culled up once using the swim jig with that 3/8. So I was able to leave that backwater area with 12 pounds. I was like, okay, all right, we can start with that. That's good. And then I get into the crowd. I work my way in there. Mind you, in practice, I did find this area when there wasn't a lot of people around. I practiced there. I caught a 5.5 there in practice, and 2 3/4 3-pounders in almost 3 back-to-back casts. So I knew I was going to be fishing there anyway. It's not like I was fishing there because there's a bunch of boats there, which is something that you do in Florida. But I fished there because I actually caught fish there in practice. So I get in there, and I go to work with this drop shot. And, I just throw it out, and I'm moving it kind of quick. But then I see everybody else. There's some people throwing jerk baits. There's some people throwing chatterbaits, wacky worms, a couple other people throwing drop shots. I'm just like, I'm just going to slow way down because there's fish here. I know there's fish here. I'm going to slow way down. I slowed way down and just basically dead sticking that drop shot. And I was using my forward-facing sonar in perspective and in forward view. I was able to pick up beds and hard spots on perspective view, and then I could really dial in my cast using forward at individual fish, and it made a big difference. I knew every single time I cast there was a fish around, so I was able to let that bait set there a lot longer than just blind casting it around. And as soon as I did that, I started catching them. I think I caught another 12 to 15 fish, something like that. I didn't really keep track. At least it felt like that much when I'm looking around and people aren't catching them, and I'm just... It was pretty phenomenal. I don't know. I felt like I did pretty good in that area. Caught another limit, and then, of course, the big one. You guys will see the footage. I'll give you a little teaser right here. Here's the cull. This for that. I caught a buck male, and I looked over there and I could see all the beds, and I just started going through a rotation of baits, trying to get her to go. Finally, I just picked up the trolling motor because I was like, maybe she can tell that I'm here because of the signature that the forward view is giving off, the pinging of the 2D and everything. It's like, I'm just going to pull the trolling motor. And I made a couple more pitches, picked up that drop shot. I knew I was in the bed, let it sit there, and it just goes, boom. She took me around the boat twice before I got her in. 7-7. It was a 7-7. It was my biggest one, bumped me up to 18 pounds, made a huge rally, and that paid off dividends. But you guys will all see the footage. I'll drop another video, and I'll go through a couple of, I'll go through the rods right now that I was using. I'll start out with the swim jig here. So this thing was definitely keying me in practice. I caught a lot of fish doing it. I found a lot of fish, but it was a 1/2 ounce dirty jig swim jig, black and blue, and I put the big Gambler Big Easy swim bait on the back, super glued it, because honestly these things rip. They're super soft, so I'd get like 2 or 3 fish out of them. But I feel like that bigger profile definitely made a difference when it came to getting bites. I had that rigged on a 7-7 heavy. It's just got a just soft enough tip, but then it's all backbone. 40-pound samurai braid on a Tatula 200 H reel and a 6.3 gear ratio. I felt like 40-pound, I could get it through the grass really easy. I could get it through it quieter, and I mean, braid to this thing, I was sticking every single one. This is what I caught that 6-pounder on in practice. And I got bites on this thing around cover, but also in open water. I mean, it was just like bulking up a swim bait, basically. I got a lot of bites on this thing in practice, and it's what I caught my only fish on day 1. And I caught, I think, 3 fish on it on day 2. But either way, it played on day 2, helped me cull up. Definitely a key setup going into the week. The money setup here, I would have it completely rigged, but I broke it off trying to fish in the rim ditch on the way back. But it was this is what I was throwing the drop shot on. This is a 6/8 medium, extra fast, and just on a size 30 spinning reel, 15-pound braided mainline with a 12-pound Seagar Invisex fluorocarbon leader. Could have gone lighter, didn't feel like I needed to. I mean, I tried it. I tried throwing a drop shot on 20-pound, just basically as like a Bubba shot, and I just couldn't get any bites. So I went really light. I went with a Trocar finesse drop shot hook and a 3/16 Texoma tackle drop shot weight. And the bait that saved my butt is right here. The Missile Baits Magic Worm Junebug Dream. This thing is a bite getter. When you get into a crowd, when you get in super pressured situations, a drop shot is a great way to get a lot of bites, lighten up your line a little bit, and just throw this thing around, get it around cover, and you will get a lot of bites on it. This thing saved my butt. I definitely owe it all to the Missile Magic Worm for saving a bunch of points. I ended up in 110th, not the finish I wanted, but definitely left Florida on a high note, being able to rally from 190th place all the way up to 110th. Obviously, like I said, not where I wanted to be, but it could have been much worse. So that one's behind us. That was Florida. Guys, a couple things to remember when you go fish Florida. Never count anything out. Those fish, they know no rules. They just do whatever they want. So Florida bass are a little bit different. It was a lot of fun. I mean, any cast on Okeechobee could be a 10-pounder. We saw Scott Martin do it. 2 bags over 30 pounds in 3 days of fishing, weighing in over 90 pounds for a 3-day total. Absolutely incredible. I mean, for the situation that Okeechobee is in, though, they definitely need to get the water under control. I mean, they need to drain that lake a little bit, help some of the grass come up, and they're spraying a ton to kill hyacinth, but they're also killing all the other vegetation. So the weights look phenomenal. It still I mean, there's still a lot of big bass there, but that fishery is hurting, guys. We need to do something about it to make it better and just bring it back to the Okeechobee of old, because there's like no grass. I mean, there's a couple places that look like old school Okeechobee out on the lake, and I didn't catch any fish in them, but they're still there. They live there. They're acting really weird right now because it's unprecedented times on Lake Okeechobee. So if you go down there, just keep that in mind. If you find yourself around a lot of fish, slow down, throw a drop shot around. Don't be scared to pick up a spinning rod when everybody else is throwing bait casters. I mean, a lighter presentation in pressured situations is a key to getting bites. Guys, just remember that anytime you're fishing in pressured situations, lighten everything up, go to a spinning rod. Don't be scared of it. Even in Florida, I mean, a lot of big bass this week were caught on spinning tackle. And just because you're in Florida doesn't mean you have to catch them on a bait cast. You got to do what you got to do to get bites. So guys, I hope you enjoy the video. The full-length Okeechobee tournament video will be coming out soon. Guys, if you haven't, please like and subscribe. I'll drop a link down below with all the products and stuff that I used down on Lake Okeechobee. But guys, I want to get back to catching some bass, so y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.